So most people from around here know that Peter Crawford was the founding father of Kelso. What you might not know, though, is that he was hired by the Klein family to drive an oxen team on the Oregon Trail all the way here. And he was 29 years old at the time, and he arrived about 1847. And in his journal entries in this Go to the Cowlitz Peter Crawford book by Camilla Summers, great book, loved it. He talks in there about when he arrived and what Portland looked like. And in the book it says that Portland was nothing more than muddy streets and 7 buildings. And I just can't even imagine I can't imagine Portland ever that small. It just is amazing to me. So on the trip across, when they were in Walla Walla, Dr. Whitman and the Walla Walla missionary that was there suggested that when he get here that he check out the Cowlitz Valley. And I don't know how Dr. Whitman ever knew about the Cowlitz River, but Peter took his advice, got a canoe, and floated down the Columbia until he got to the Cowlitz. So when he arrived here, there was a leftover building from the Hudson Bay Company. They had a building at the mouth of the Cowlitz River as it goes into the Columbia. And the reason the Hudson Bay Company had that is they had a farm up in Toledo called Cowlitz Landing. And they produced so much farm fresh produce and meats that they would float it down the river and store it in this warehouse. And when Peter Crawford arrived, the Hudson Bay Company had already left to go to Vancouver because it was now the Oregon Territory. And it being a British company, they didn't have any standing anymore. So the first night of sleep that Peter Crawford had here on the Cowlitz was in that warehouse at the mouth of the Cowlitz River. So the next morning, it's back in the canoe, heads up the river, and steps off in what we can imagine is right around the base of the Cowlitz Way Bridge. And it's that spot where he builds his house. And there's still a little tiny bit of remnants of that. And it's at North First and Crawford, of course. And so the interesting thing about this is, so it was the first donation land claim on the east side of the Cowlitz River. And Seth Catlin had the other side. A little bit, like a year or so later. And he gets 100 apple tree saplings, and he plants them. And I'm imagining that he plants them all the way up to the top of Old Kelso Hill where the old high school was. I'm not sure. I'm going to do a little research. I'm going to ask Joseph at the museum a little bit more about that and see if there's any leftover apple trees in that area from the trees that Peter Crawford planted. So he builds a small cabin, and he stays in it, but he also stays in other places. He's got friends that he's met along the way. Some of them are on Sauvie Island, some of them are in Oregon City, some in Vancouver. And because Peter Crawford is such a skilled surveyor, he's hired all over this area, cities like Milwaukee, Sauvie Island, Oregon City, Vancouver, even Rainier, Oregon, or across the river from us, and Columbia City were also surveyed by Peter Crawford. And of course, he also surveyed Kelso when he decided to plat that out. So not only is he a significant figure in Kelso, but the plots and the plans that he made in other cities all over this region are still used today. Well, I hope I was able to share some new information that you might not have known about Kelso. If you want to find out some more information, I highly recommend this book. Until next time.